Carbon is the establishment of all life on Earth, needed to create complex atoms like proteins and DNA. This component is additionally found in our air as carbon dioxide. Carbon assists with controlling the Earth's temperature, making all life conceivable, is a vital fixing in the food that supports us, and gives a significant wellspring of the energy to fuel our worldwide economy. This is stored in rocks and sediments, and the rest is situated in sea, air, and in living beings. These are the reservoirs or sinks through which carbon cycles. Carbon is delivered once more into the atmosphere when organic entities pass on. Volcanoes emit, fires blast, fossil fuels are singed, and through an assortment of different mechanisms. Carbon cycle is a process where carbon atoms travels continuously from the atmosphere to the Earth and back again in the atmosphere. Since there is a close environment between our planet and the atmosphere, the total quantity of carbon in both systems do not change. The carbon in both the atmosphere and the Earth are continually in motion. It is essential for plants to go through photosynthesis, the process of making food. One of the reactants for this is the carbon dioxide, which they absorb from the air through their stomata. The carbon elements are then transferred to carnivore animals, and if these organisms die, their bodies decompose, returning the carbon dioxide back to the atmosphere because of the reactions made by bacteria and fungi. Also take note that all living beings, including humans, release carbon dioxide as we inhale oxygen. This is the process called respiration, which is the exact opposite of photosynthesis. As time passes by, these decomposed bodies become fossil fuels, which is used by factories, power stations, and vehicles.
The changes in carbon cycle and its anthropogenic effect. A tremendous impact on the carbon cycle by human activities such as burning fossil fuels, changing land use, deforestation, livestock, fertilization, and using limestone to make concrete are all making significant quantities of carbon into the atmosphere. As a result, the ocean absorbs much of the carbon dioxide that is released from burning fossil fuels, and the extra carbon dioxide is lowering the ocean's pH. And its process is called ocean acidification, which means it interferes with the ability of marine organisms, including corals and snails, to build their shells and skeletons. In addition, recent studies indicate that animals may indeed play an essential indirect role in mediating carbon fluxes. And as animals have traditionally been accepted as playing a role in the carbon cycle, they were not thought to play a substantial role in mediating its storage. Meaning, human activities like restoration and management of wildlife populations capture significant global anthropogenic carbon emissions.
What is Lesch-Delays principle? It is when stress is applied to a chemical system at equilibrium, and it reduces the effect of the stress when the direction changes in the equilibrium concentrations. Equilibrium does not mean equal mass or volume on both sides of the reaction, because sometimes equilibrium is created that favors the reactants, and sometimes it favors the products depending on the reactivity or stability of the substances involved. The example that will equilibrium found in environmental science is the carbon cycle's contribution, and to minimize the impacts of carbon dioxide gas on global temperature. Atmospheric carbon dioxide gas is in equilibrium with dissolved aqueous carbon dioxide. It is because when the atmospheric carbon dioxide gas leaves the atmosphere to become a dissolved aqueous carbon dioxide through direct contact with the water surface such as ocean, lake, or precipitation, and biological processes such as photosynthesis and digestion of organic carbon. And the dissolved aqueous carbon dioxide works because it is released into the atmosphere by methods such as volcanic eruptions, respiration, decay, and combustion of stored carbon such as firewood and fossil fuels. Meaning, The carbon cycle is when using less carbon dioxide gas will allow temperatures to moderate, and decreased temperature will slow the reaction rates.
With the ongoing pollution of greenhouse gases and global warming that is caused by humans, animals who live in their rightful habitat are being disrupted and are forced to migrate to a different area, whereas they could endanger different species, the economy, and as well as the environment. These organisms are called invasive species that are not native or indigenous to a particular area and are harmful to the new area that they created. It can cause a serious impact by reducing biodiversity by competing native plants and animals for food resources or multiplying rapidly due to lack of predators. Also, not all non-natives are considered to be invasive. They are considered to be invasive if they do pose a threat to the overall ecosystem process. Unlike invasive species, non-invasive species may not hinder or prevent the survival of others within the ecosystem. Non-invasive species may even be beneficial in certain areas. But this sudden introduction of invasive species can threaten and alter a natural environment and habitat and disrupt essential ecosystem functions. It also poses a risk in the extinction of rare and endangered species. Because of this, its impacts are irreversible in the ecosystem, and the species that do live in that area are being forced to adapt to its new environment to its environmental stress. With invasive species being difficult to replicate, they also have a higher genetic diversity to colonize successfully the new environment. And for the lower genetic diversity, this is where epigenetics comes.
What is epigenetics? Epigenetics is the study of how your behaviors and environment can cause changes that affect the way your genes work. Unlike genetic changes, epigenetic changes are reversible and do not change your DNA sequence, but they can change how your body reads the DNA sequence. Epigenetics provides a way to understand how environmental factors can alter inherited variations in gene expression without altering the sequence of DNA, and thus the cause of certain diseases that are not explained by traditional genetic methods. Epigenetics of animals in carbon cycle. Epigenetic modifications for animals will remain as long as the animal cells divide, and in some cases, it can be inherited through the generations. Epigenetic changes can help determine whether genes are turned on or off and can influence the production of proteins in certain cells. Patterns of epigenetic modification vary among each of the animals, and DNA methylation is considered as a common form of epigenetic alteration. It involves the addition of small molecules called methyl groups to segments of DNA, each consisting of one carbon atom and 3 hydrogen atoms. Specific changes in the patterns of DNA methylation can be linked to a wide range of heritable pathologies in the animals. Since animals acquire their carbon by eating plants and then releasing it during their respiration,